Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is SVN3E, grade 11 workplace science, and I'm the instructor, Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. You're always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled Monday through Thursday from 10 until 11 in the morning, and we are in our fifth week of our 9-week course. Sorry. All right, so at this point, as we are about halfway through the course, it's important to start submitting your work for marking. So the key questions are the marked questions, and they are all listed at the end of each of your IL lessons. So please do all of them. Some of them are check your understanding questions, some of them are activities, and some of them are review questions, but there's a complete list at the end of each of your IL lessons. Explain your ideas, your thoughts in complete sentences, so I truly understand what it is that you are saying, and make sure you are actually answering the question. You can do this by hand or electronically. If you want to write in your workbook or make notes, feel free, it is yours to keep. But the spaces for the questions is not very big, so I strongly encourage you to write on a different piece of paper for your answers that you're submitting. If you're going to do it electronically, using a PDF, a Word file, or a Google Doc are the files that are easiest for us to open. Everyone has access through Google Doc at through their NNEC email address, and we can support you to access that if you need to. If you're going to use a different file type, most likely this is fine. Just let us know so that we can make sure we can actually open it. So how do you submit your work for marking? There's 3 methods. The first is to send your work in electronically. So you can scan your completed work if you've written it out by hand. If you have an Apple device, you can use the Notes app. And if you have an Android device, you can use the Google Drive app. Both are free and have scan functions that are basically point and click. If you need to take a picture instead because you don't have these devices or these apps, you can. If you want help to figure out how to scan, let me know and I'm happy to walk you through it. So then you can send it to either by email. Send it by email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. And you're going to CC it to the course marker, who is John, and his email address is jstradiotto@nnec.on.ca. I'll talk about it a little bit more, but at this point, I am only instructing, and John is the one who's actually marking your work. The second method is to submit your work, put it in our mailbox at our Lookout location. So we have a little white mailbox at our location 74 Front Street, where the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small mailbox next to our side door. So just stick it in there and we'll get it back to you as soon as we can. And the third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students are also welcome to fax in their work if you have access to a fax machine. If you want to connect with me through YouTube or my Facebook, my name is B Slate Wahsa on both. As I said, I am continuing for term T1A to instruct for this course and record all of our lessons and upload them to my YouTube channel under playlist SVN3E. And I will share this on Facebook. Though I am no longer the marker, things at our office have shifted and we have different responsibilities. I will continue to teach this course on air for the remainder of term 1A. And then after term 1A, all of the responsibility will be on John, though he is marking at this point. So all of our lessons will always be on my YouTube at B Slate Wahsa, and you can still reach out to me if you have questions. Science is really visual, and I think it's important to access the videos and not just listen. So either joining me live through Zoom or watching the YouTube channels is really going to set you up for the most success. If you're unable to do this because you don't have reliable internet, that makes complete sense and is completely reasonable. Just let me know and we're happy to send you a copy of the videos so that you get the full experience. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. Again, I am the course instructor for the remainder of this term. So if you want to email me, my email address is bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca or connect with me through Facebook at bslate-wahsa. You can call both of us at 807-737-1488. My extension is 2209. John's extension is 2210. Or you can also call us toll free at 1-800-667-3703. If you want to talk to John directly, if you want to email him, again, his email address is jstradiotto@nnec.on.ca. And his hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with he's not available at lunch from 12:30 till 1:30. Hopefully you're able to connect with whoever you need to connect with, though we can always support you in figuring out if you email me and you have a question that actually makes more sense to ask John, I can forward it to your email and get you connected. All right, I believe it's important to position myself in the context of this course as well as being an educator, as particularly as I have white settler ancestry and have white privilege. This means that my experience of education has been easier. I have had less barriers to face because our education system is set up for white people and is based on a system of white supremacy. So education for me has been easier than it is for many folks. I recognize this, and while I can't change that, my experience, I do work to disrupt this cycle in order to make education more inclusive and equitable for all individuals. I live in Northwestern Ontario on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe people, and I'm working to learn from this culture and integrate these teachings that make sense within our science course. Though it is a journey and I have lots to learn and unlearn, and I don't get everything right all the time, so I'm always happy to receive feedback if folks would like to use their time and their emotional labor to do that in order to improve. I welcome it. Our textbook is also Eurocentric. It is written from a white perspective, from what I can tell, and ignores the Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis knowledges as well as experiences. This, of course, is highly problematic, and I work to counter it by integrating Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis experiences when I can, and knowledges if I'm able to, though that is not my area of expertise, and it is part of my learning journey. Again, if anyone has any resources or suggestions for me, I'm happy to hear them in order to improve this course. All right, so we are wrapping up Unit 3 today. We've been learning about the factors that in the environment that cause disease in humans, and then we've been learning about protection methods. So we learned in our last lessons about vaccines and medications, as well as non-medical methods of protection. Today, we're going to be learning about personal hygiene and household cleaners in order how to keep our spaces clean in order to protect ourselves. So our learning goals are that you will be able to describe proper hand washing techniques and safe handling practices, and you will understand the effects of contaminated air quality in homes and be able to suggest strategies of recovery. So you know you've met these learning goals because you can practice proper hand washing techniques. You can explain how to safely handle food by implementing clean, separate, cook, and chill. And you know the dangers of disregarding indoor air quality and the methods of prevention. So we have learned about medical methods and non-medical devices that can protect us from the harmful effects of environmental factors. But there are also low-tech ways of protecting yourself. Washing your hands and food and keeping your house clean may sound too simple to be of any use in fighting viruses or environmental contaminants, yet these are easy and effective ways of doing both. So this is something that is manageable and tangible, hopefully for you to do in order to keep you and your family safe. So first, we're going to start with the most fundamental, washing your hands. So washing your hands significantly reduces the spread of diseases. Frequent hand washing is the single most effective way to prevent infectious diseases of all kinds. Single most effective. This is the easiest way to prevent infectious diseases. Washing your hands. You can do this. We can all do this. Our children can do this. Everybody can do this. Our hands spread about 80% of infectious diseases like the common cold and stomach flu. Viruses spread when contaminated objects and surfaces are touched by an infected person and then by another person. Then people touch their mouths, eyes, noses. There's been lots of conversation about this recently. However, these disease-causing bacteria and viruses slide off your hands if you wash them properly. So washing makes a difference. Washing your hands reduces the spread of disease. So when do you wash your hands? Before and after preparing meals and eating, after using the washroom, after helping someone else use the washroom, after handling pets, after blowing your nose or coughing and sneezing. So then how do you wash your hands? Use soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Get between your fingers, under your nails, and back of your hands. Don't forget your thumb, and dry your hands completely. So we have a video that walks us through this. I know that this is something that probably seems obvious, but it's better to it's good to have tools so that we can implement this in our lives. Particularly with coronavirus, as it continues to be a threat, something to continue to be concerned about. So, and as we're coming into flu season, washing your hands is super important.
By now, we're well aware of coronavirus, and while we don't know everything there is to know about the virus, we do know a little bit about how it can spread. The most common way is contaminated surfaces. A phone, a counter somewhere, and we also know that if someone with the virus were to cough on or near you, you could be contaminated. What we also know is that masks are not particularly the most effective way to defend yourself, as the particles associated with the virus can easily get around one of these. So, what can we do? It turns out that washing your hands is the most effective way to protect yourself from any type of virus, and it also turns out there's a high chance that you've been doing it wrong. Now let's go over a few myths. Myth number 1. Do I have to turn my water all the way to the hottest temperature, burn my hands, because that's the most effective way? The CDC says no. Any temperature that you feel good with that isn't going to burn your hands is absolutely fine as long as you wash your hands. Myth number 2. Do I have to use antibacterial soap? Is that better? No, the CDC also says this is untrue. Plain, regular old soap works just fine. Now, we are ready to finally wash our hands. It's time to apply that soap and water to our hands. Lather up really, really good and efficiently, and there's 3 main areas you want to focus on. You want to focus on the backs of your hands. You want to go in between those fingers, and you want to go underneath those nails. That is the best way. Absolutely be thorough, lather it up, go through backs of hands, in between those fingers and underneath those nails for 20 seconds. Now I know that seems like a long time. You can sing Happy Birthday twice or whatever song you're into, but 20 seconds is the suggested amount of time to get all these germs taken care of. Now once it's time to rinse and dry, you really want to be thorough with that too. These germs have a way less chance of spreading in dry hands than on wet hands. The last question is when. Now the obvious one is when you leave the bathroom. We know that. But you also, anytime you prep or touch food, you want to wash your hands and go through this process again. Anytime you touch some garbage, wash your hands and go through the process again. And anytime you cough or sneeze, you got to go through the steps again. That is the best way to ward off these germs. But what if you can't get to a sink physically to wash your hands? Your next best option is this right here. I'm sure some of you, and hopefully most of you, have some hand sanitizer nearby. First thing you want to do though is jump on the back. It needs to be at least 60% alcohol. This one is 63, so I'm good to go. So I can go ahead and just do it? No. Actually, you really need to check your hands. You want to make sure there's no dirt, there's no oil, there's no debris. If there is, the CDC highly suggests you really need to use soap and water. But if your hands are generally clean, you're gonna go ahead and put a dime-size amount on your palm like this. You wanna go through your fingers, use your knuckles, go through those nails, and you don't wanna wipe off or get rid of any excess because it's basically counterproductive, and those are the germs you're trying to avoid in the first place. While the overall best way to protect yourself from viruses like flu or coronavirus is to simply wash your hands, there is actually a correct way to sneeze and cough that'll help prevent the spreading of any further germs. When you grab a tissue after you use it, don't crumple it up and leave it at a coworker's desk. You're gonna use the tissue, cover your nose and mouth, sneeze into it, immediately throw it in the garbage. If you don't have a tissue, it's not ideal, but you're gonna sneeze into your upper arm, sneeze into your elbow, kind of like a little Dracula move. Cover your nose and mouth when you do so. Don't sneeze or cough directly into your hands. And it really is as simple as that. I know it sounds simple because it is simple. The CDC has been driving home these principles for a long time now. That's the better way to help prevent and protect yourself from the spreading of viruses like flu or coronavirus.
All right, so again, most likely this is very familiar to you.
But it's always just good to recap it and to go over what you need to know. Just a reminder. So I now have a graphic. There's also been lots of graphics online to share around, things that people can print, that using how to properly wash your hands, turn on clean running water. If you lather up with soap for a scrub for at least 20 seconds. Remember to scrub between your fingers, under your nails, and up your wrists, and rinse the soap completely off in clean running water and dry your hands completely. So as you can see, there's just so many different graphics out there. This one shows even how you can rub between your fingers by using your fingers, interlacing your hands and rub your palms, scrubbing, interlocking your hands and rubbing the backs of your fingers with opposing palms, grabbing your thumb and rotating around your thumb for both hands. So there's just lots of ways that the more you do it, the more it becomes habit and you don't even think about it. This is also super important for helping young people in your life to learn how to do it effectively. So this graphic I find is really useful because it shows the difference. So under a black light, we can see this hand. We can see that the person, before they were washing, their hand is pretty fluorescent, pretty reactive. There's lots of bright blue spots on their hand, indicating that there are lots of things that are reacting with the light, that are lots of dirt. So if you just rinse and shake your hands, so many of us have, I'm sure, been guilty of doing this. It's just taking your hand under water and then shake them off. You can see, yes, it has taken some of the bright blue, some of the dirt and germs off of the hands, but there's still a lot of germs on your hands. Then if you do it for 6 seconds, so you do it a little bit longer, then again, yes, we've gotten some more of it off, but there's still significant amounts of the residual germs. With soap, you can see that immediately soap has a huge impact, that going from the 6 seconds with no soap to the 6 seconds with soap, this has had a huge impact on the amount of germs that have been killed. And then it just gets better and better. So doing it for 15 seconds, doing it for 30 seconds, you can see that we have a significant increase. The nail beds you can see continue to be kind of bright blue, that they are the hardest part to get fully clean. And like your knuckles, these where there's folds in your skin. But soap and time is really just what is the best. I also love this this graphic, again, just to really see the effects that this have. So an elementary school class did an experiment where they took some bread and they touched it with their hands, and then they put it in bags and left it for a month to see what happened. So they did this for 5 different bags to see what happens. First, we have the control piece of bread, so which is this number 2 bread, which just shows you that a month bread in a bag for a month does not really have any mold on it. Is clean. Nothing's grown there. So the bread on its own is not moldy. In this first bag, the piece of bread has been wiped on Chromebooks, so wiped on the computers that kids share and use. And you can see that after a month, it is basically completely black and has mold growth on it. So these are the surfaces that we're touching. These grimy Chromebooks don't look that grimy, but they are covered in all sorts of bacteria and germs. Then in number 3, the third bag, this piece of bread was just touched by dirty hands. So this is just touched with kids' hands. We all know kids have dirty hands. We all have dirty hands. So your hands are just unwashed. They're not that they have particularly excess dirt on them. It's just a whole bunch of kids touched this piece of bread with their hands, poked it, and you can see now the amount of bacteria that has grown in that month. Then the kids washed their hands with soap and water for that 20 to 30 seconds and touch this piece of bread, poke this piece of bread, and you can see this bread looks almost identical to the fresh control bread. That washing of hands has eliminated all that germs and bacteria. And then the 5th bag is if they use hand sanitizer, and you can see that there's still some growth. So my assumption with this is that some folks use hand sanitizer really well and poked and touched the bread, and so they had killed the germs, but other folks did not do it as well, and therefore there's still some bacteria and growth. So hand sanitizer can work well if you do it well, but washing with soap and water, again, if you do it well, is really gonna have the biggest impact. So that's just a great graphic, I think, to really show how dirty things can be, even if they don't seem dirty. But it is more than just hand washing. So the action of rubbing your hands together with soap and water breaks down the tiny bits of grease and dirt that the germs cling to. You also need to disinfect your kitchen's sink and counters. You need to regularly disinfect your bathroom, including the doorknobs and the faucets. I always forget doorknobs. I'm good at faucets. I'm good at counters. I always forget doorknobs, something I need to work on. You want to regularly disinfect your desk and your computer keyboard, and you want to avoid eating at your desk. This you can do at work as well. If you work at a desk at work, then regularly disinfecting your area is important. Keeping your hands away from your eyes, nose, and mouth. Do not share pens, cups, glasses, dishes, cutlery, and at school and at work. Do not pick up magazines and newspapers in doctors' offices, waiting rooms, in staff kitchens, or on public transit. I know this can be hard because they are there to be read. That's what it feels like the point of them being there, particularly in doctor's office or waiting rooms. But think about all the other people who've picked them up, right? So you can't account for anyone else. So it's important to just keep yourself safe. And most importantly, other than washing your hands, but also equally as important, stay at home if you're sick. If you are feeling unwell, stay at home, take care of yourself, give yourself rest. This is what most of our bodies need when we are sick, is that we need rest. So in order to avoid spreading germs and take care of yourself, stay home if you can. Obviously, part of that is societal, and our world is messed up and we don't have sick days enough for everyone. Not everybody has access to and needs to survive, but really stay home as much as you can if you're sick. And if you have to leave home, wear a mask if you have to, and wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. All right, so that's the personal hygiene portion of keeping yourself and your community safe. So now let's look at food handling safety. So first, it's why would we even care? Why does this even matter? So this is a graphic about food-related illnesses and hospitalizations and deaths in Canada. So I don't really think about the fact that food might make people sick or die in Canada, but here are some stats. So over 11,500 hospitalizations and 240 deaths occur each year due to food-related illnesses. 1 in 8 people, so that's about 4 million Canadians, get sick each year from some sort of contaminated food. The most common culprits in Canada are norovirus, which has about 1 million illnesses a year and up to 21 deaths. Listeria, which is the leading cause of deaths related to foodborne illnesses each year. So that's up to 35 deaths out of 178 illnesses. So if you get listeria, you got that's like 20% of people who get listeria die. That's pretty intense. Salmonella contributes a quarter of the hospitalizations. So this is 88,000 people get illness. E. coli is one of the foodborne bacteria that causes the most severe illness. And Campylobacter, I don't know how to say that, is the third leading cause of foodborne illnesses and hospitalization, which has up to 145,000 people who get ill a year. So we're going to talk about these food safety tips is how to avoid these illnesses. And they are clean, cook, separate, and chill. And we're going to go over these a few times. So a foodborne illness is what happens when a person gets sick from eating food that has been contaminated with an unwanted microorganism or pathogen. It's often called as food poisoning. And it's often sort of downplayed. Oh, I just got food poisoning. But it has an impact. Often can be mistaken for the stomach flu because the most common symptoms are stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and fever, which all you could have due to the stomach flu. But some foodborne illnesses can cause severe symptoms and even death, so it can get really serious. Controlling foodborne illnesses is very difficult because a lot of our food is processed and produced in large quantities. So if one bunch of food gets contaminated, then a whole bunch of food gets contaminated. So there are federal, provincial, and municipal levels of government that are responsible for public health and food safety. Everyone is responsible for this. There are organizations like the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, which set rules of how food is processed and sold. And the goal of this is to keep people safe. The CFIA also tests food products for safety and warns the public if it discovers unsafe food products. It also tries to make sure that food imported to Canada meets Canadian requirements. Different places in the world have different requirements. And so they make sure that the food that is coming into Canada meets our requirements of what our government has decided is safe. So what are safe food handling practices? Bacteria can survive food processing and can become contaminated during preparation, cooking, and storage. Public health experts advise people to use safe food handling practices. These cover how you buy, store, handle, and prepare food. So this is the clean, separate, cool, cook, and chill. So clean both your hands and also any fruits or vegetables with running water. Clean your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. That doesn't change. Separate your food. So separate raw meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs. And use separate cutting boards and utensils and plates for these things. You do not combine raw food with raw meat with cooked meat. Do not combine raw meat or seafood or poultry or raw eggs with vegetables or fruit or grains, other things that you're going to eat that are not getting cooked. Make sure raw needs to stick with raw, cooked needs to stick with cooked. So then when you're cooking things, you need to cook it to a proper temperature in order to make sure that all the bacteria has been killed and the food is adequately cooked. So poultry needs to be cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 74 degrees Celsius. Ground meat is 160 degrees Fahrenheit, 72 degrees Celsius, and beef and pork in the whole or in parts is 145 degrees Fahrenheit, 63 degrees Celsius. So having a meat thermometer is really helpful to make sure you're cooking your food properly. And then chill your food once you are any remaining bits, any leftovers, chill it, put it in a properly cold fridge that is at least below 4 degrees Celsius or 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're freezing things, it should be below negative 17 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So knowing how to properly store your food, here's a diagram that says your guide to where it goes. One really good tool is that where you buy it in the store is where you put it. So if you get it on the counter, then you can store it on the counter. Of course, this isn't true for like condiments or things that are processed and sealed, and that they need to be refrigerated generally after opening. So things that are canned or in jars, bottles, those sorts of things often need to go into the refrigerator after opening. So your pantry should be about 10 to 21 degrees Celsius. Things often can last for up to 2 years or more, but in canned goods in a pantry that is of that temperature, but it can be damaged if it gets too hot. Some fruits and vegetables can be kept on the counter or in a cool, dark place like a cellar or in a cupboard. You decide what makes the most sense for you, but you'll notice that some things go bad and need to go in the fridge first or until you use it. If you're putting things in the freezer, it's a really good idea to wrap it and label your meat, your fish, and your poultry so that you know what it is and when you put it in the freezer. And then dairy products and eggs should be stored in the fridge in the coldest part, which is usually near the back, away from the door. Everything that goes in the door is going to be exposed. It's not going to stay as cold as long. Also, don't store raw meat above fruits and vegetables unless they are in a package or a container that there's not going to be any drips from it. So again, having a meat thermometer can be really, really helpful, or a food thermometer to check the internal temperature of things that you're cooking in order to kill the germs. So I like this graphic because it includes much more. So all poultry, wild game, which many folks in our areas are shooting deer, moose, caribou. So all of these things need to be cooked to a minimum internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're pre-cooking ham, you have a pre-cooked ham and you're reheating it, needs to be heated up to the same, or any leftovers or casseroles need to be heated up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit in order to make sure any bacteria that has grown since you originally cooked it are adequately killed. Then ground meat and egg dishes need to be cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Fresh meat in steaks, chops, or roasts need to be cooked up to 145 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as fresh pork and ham and fresh fish. And then fruits and vegetables that have been cooked but are being held, you want to keep it hot, need to be, like in a buffet, need to be at least 135 degrees Fahrenheit internally. So the key here, this is really important, is that bacteria is most happy and it grows quickest between 70 degrees and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is like 70 degrees is like room temperature for most places, and 135 degrees, I don't know what that is in Celsius off the top of my head, sorry, but it is going to be like, that's hot. So super important to be paying attention to these in order to keep you not from getting sick. All right, so we're gonna watch another video that just goes over these same things in case I forgot anything and to make sure that that's super important.
So just give my video a second.
Food handling safety risks at home are more common than most people think. The 4 easy lessons of clean, separate, cook, and chill can help prevent harmful bacteria from making your family sick. Wash your hands with warm water and soap for 20 seconds before and after handling food. Also, wash cutting boards, dishes, utensils, and countertops with hot soapy water before and after preparing each food item and before going on to the next. Rinse all fresh fruits and vegetables under cool, running tap water, including those that have skins and rinds that will not be eaten. Scrub each firm-skinned fruit and vegetable with a clean vegetable brush while rinsing. Don't cross-contaminate. Keep raw meat, poultry, seafood, and their juices apart from other food items in your shopping cart, grocery bag, and in your refrigerator. Use one cutting board for fresh produce and a separate one for raw meat, poultry, and seafood. Never place cooked food on an unwashed plate that previously held raw meat, poultry, seafood, or eggs. Cook to safe temperature. Color is not a reliable indicator of doneness. Use a food thermometer to measure the internal temperature of cooked foods. Make sure that meat, poultry, egg dishes, casseroles, other foods and leftovers are cooked to the internal temperatures shown in the chart. Never defrost food at room temperature. There are 3 safe ways to defrost food: in the refrigerator, in cold water that's changed every 30 minutes, and in the microwave. Food thawed in the microwave should be cooked immediately. Refrigerate promptly. Bacteria multiply fastest at temperatures between 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, so chilling food promptly is one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of microbial foodborne illness. Refrigerate or freeze meat, poultry, eggs, and other perishables within 2 hours of purchase or preparation. Keep the fridge at 4 degrees Celsius or lower and use a refrigerator thermometer to check the temperature. For more information, visit befoodsafe.ca.
So there's lots of things you could do to make sure that you're
Keeping your food and your food handling practice safe to make sure that you're not getting foodborne illnesses. All right, now you can do the key questions on page 98, the check your understanding questions 1 and 2. Now that we've looked at hand washing and safe food handling practices, we're going to look at indoor air quality as well. So on average, there are 2 to 5 times more pollution indoors than outdoors, and over 10 million Canadians are sensitive to poor indoor air quality. We've talked a lot about air pollution and about the impacts on people's health, but we've mostly, our pictures and our sort of references have been about outdoor air pollution. But we have to think about, as this just said, indoor air pollution has a much more significant impact. So Canadians spend 90% of their times indoors. Now this, of course, is an average and it's going to be different for different folks depending on where you live and your activities, but most Canadians spend most of their time indoors. 1 in 10 Canadians have asthma, that's about 3.5 million, so have difficulty breathing, and 1 in 6 Canadians suffer from allergic rhinitis due to allergens, so 6.3 million have allergies. So what are indoor air pollutants? So we have biological, which could be molds, bacteria, and dust mites. We have chemical, which are those VOCs, the volatile organic compounds in household products, gases and particles from fuel burning appliances, tobacco smoke, building material, and also in outdoor air. So we're going to watch a video about the 5 indoor air quality categories and parts of indoor air quality is and how we can pay attention to this.
When it comes to assessing a family's indoor living environment, the Environmental Protection Agency identified 5 indoor air quality categories of concern that all homeowners need to be educated about in their home. They are referred to as the 5 danger levels of indoor air quality. Indoor air quality is a major human health issue in the United States and Canada. Did you know that people spend 90% of their time indoors? This is actually growing due to many societal impacts. Did you know that there are 750,000 new asthma cases per year in the U.S. alone? Homes are also built tighter and far more energy efficient than they used to be. Fresh, clean air in homes is now harder to get. Let's take a few minutes to dissect these 5 danger levels and explain exactly what we're dealing with in our homes. Carbon monoxide at low levels causes mild health effects that are often mistaken for the flu. These symptoms include headaches, dizziness, disorientation, nausea, and fatigue. High doses of carbon monoxide can be fatal. Danger level 4 contaminants are microbial growth. These are microorganisms, mold, and fungal spores. You will always have naturally occurring mold. It's everywhere. But when mold is in abundance in areas it shouldn't be, it can reach toxic levels and become a health hazard. Most elevated levels of mold are due to 2 things: inadequate ventilation in unfinished areas of the home and moisture intrusion. Mold and mildew are musty-smelling fungi which grow in air that is moist and stagnant. Allergies are aggravated by mold spores. The number 1 allergen is the fecal matter of dust mites, which live off moisture from the air. Mild molds can cause sinus and respiratory infection, while severe molds can have catastrophic health consequences, including infertility. Danger level 3 are allergens and particulates. Dust, pet dander, pollen, insect debris, and smoke are microscopic organisms that may live and float around naturally in your home. They typically travel through your air ducts and upward through the home following the stack effect. Dust mites were mentioned when we discussed moisture. Keeping your house dry can make it hard for them to live. Filtering and cleaning your indoor air is very important too if these allergens and particulates are present in abundance. Symptoms of high levels of allergens and particulates could be nose and throat irritation, congestion, sneezing, coughing, and asthma flare-ups. Have you ever said, "I'm going outside for a breath of fresh air"? Danger level 2 contaminants are infectious illness in the form of colds, flu, bacteria, germs, and viruses. They are airborne illnesses or microorganisms. These germs, viruses, and bacteria are naturally carried in by animals and family members from the outside. Once in the house, they go airborne and get sucked into the air distribution system and circulated around the home. I'm sure you can relate to the transferring of illness by sick people present in the same home, office, school, or mass transit vehicle. Danger level 1 contaminants are toxic compounds. Building materials, furniture, carpets, paints, and cleaning chemicals can produce a toxic environment in your home that may cause an allergic reaction. Homes are being constructed and re-insulated to be tighter and more energy efficient, which may trap these toxic chemicals in our home. It's no wonder childhood asthma has increased 600% in the last 30 years. These are indoor toxins, as I just mentioned, and also exterior pollutants. These are pesticides, herbicides, and even natural gases like methane. These gases can migrate into a house from the soil.
All right, so that just gives us an overview of
All the things that we need to be concerned about with our air quality. So how can we actually improve our air quality? Let's not just worry about the concerns. What can we do to make it better? So we can control at the source, which means preventing pollutants from getting into the air. So avoiding smoking indoors. This includes all kinds of smoking. So smoking tobacco, smoking marijuana or cannabis, smoking vaping. Best to not do any of this indoors. This is affecting your air quality as well as the air quality for those around you. Regularly dust and vacuum your home to get those dust mites out. Keep your home dry. Use a dehumidifier, and fix anything that causes dampness. Make sure that your fuel burning appliances are well maintained and working properly. Avoid idling cars and lawnmowers in attached garages. Reduce off-gassing of household materials and products by choosing ones that contain few VOCs. So then the second method talks about ventilation. So increase movement outdoor air to indoors, which decreases stale air and reduces indoor air pollution and moisture. So open your windows, get outdoor air inside, and air your house out. and your doors if you can. Turn on your kitchen and bathroom fans. Install mechanical heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, HVACs, that can bring in outdoor air, vent stale air, circulate air, and control temperature and humidity. And then we can talk about air cleaning. So this is designed to remove impurities from the air. There's been lots of talk about air purification with COVID-19 and people returning to workplaces. Some are good at removing particles, but most are not very good at actually removing gases. So they're not as effective as source control or ventilation. So this is your last line of defense. This is maybe something to do in conjunction with controlling of the source and ventilating. Air cleaners filter the air. So a HEPA air cleaner, for instance, while air purifiers sanitize the air by emitting negative ions, ozone, utilizing heat, air-free air purifiers, or with UV or UVC lamps. So again, this is your last line of defense. They work in different ways, but they contribute other things to your air and to your environment. So it is best to first use source control, then work on ventilation, and then finally use air cleaning. All right, so to wrap up unit 3, this lesson 12 is our last unit in this, and then we're going to be moving on to a new topic. So we've been talking about personal hygiene and household cleaners today. So hand washing, again, is the gold star, is the winner, is the most important, most effective tool that you have. It's so important to you do it properly and to teach those around you to do it properly and encourage them to actually do it. So you need to use soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Think back to those images about that I showed you that show how germs survive and the impacts of them. Don't forget to do between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and the back, so that you are getting your knuckles, you're getting all of the crevices, all of the places where bacteria and germs can get caught and hide and stay. So don't just do your palms. You need to do all of your hand completely. Then we talked about food safety and how over 11,500 hospitalizations and 250 deaths per year are in result of foodborne illnesses. So this is something that, though not the biggest thing that has an impact on our death rates, but if people are able to avoid food poisoning and foodborne illnesses, then that's 11,500 people who don't need to be in the hospital, and there can be space for other folks who have more life-threatening diseases. So this is just something in order to help our medical care system and also just to have people being healthy. It's all good. So make sure that you are following the 4 steps of clean, separate, cook, and chill when you're dealing with your food, and really being safe to, and those are pretty straightforward things to remember. Clean, separate, cook, chill. They all mean basically what just those individual words mean. So just do those things and you're protecting yourself and your family. And then we looked at indoor air quality and how there are both biological and chemical factors to be concerned about and to be aware of, but that we can prevent it using source control, stopping it at the beginning, using ventilation, making sure our spaces are aired out, our indoor spaces are aired out to get a flow of outdoor air inside, and then air cleaning as a final option to contribute to improved indoor air quality. All right, so hopefully you are feeling comfortable with our success criteria today. That 1, you can practice proper hand washing techniques. 2, you can explain how to safely handle food by implementing the clean, separate, cook, and chill philosophy. And 3, you know the dangers of disregarding indoor air quality and the methods of prevention of having a poor indoor air quality. All right, so now you can do the review questions on page 101. These are your key questions for this lesson, questions 1 through 13. So as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us here at Wahsa. This is our role is to support you however we can. So if you want to talk to me directly about the course material that I presented, you can call me at the office either with our local number or our toll-free number 1-800-667-3703. My extension is 2209. You could email me at bronwyn.slate, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. Remember, all of our lessons are recorded and uploaded to YouTube on my channel at Slate Wahsa under the playlist SVN3E. The change recently is that John is now the course marker, and after term 1A will be responsible for the course entirely, and I will no longer be involved with it. I will be doing all of the other things that I do. So if you want to email him, his email address is jstradiotto@nnec.on.ca. You can also call him locally through the local number, the 1-800 number, and the local number is 807-737-1488, and his extension is 2210. His hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and takes lunch from 12:30 to 1:30, so isn't available during that time. Please reach out to us if you have any concerns or to hand in your work. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day, and Miigwech.